that you bring as a leader into those rooms, into those conversations. Like, do your people a favor and just create a notes, a Google Doc, whatever you want. Force yourself to put it in there first, sit on it, and then decide, is this worth bringing up? Because it is going to get their attention,
so good.
and it's going to pull them away from something.
You should not listen to anybody, or whatever somebody says is working for them, just run and do that. It probably won't work for you.
Don't be in such a hurry, like to put that out there, to put that Slack out there, to put that tweet out there. It's like, because a lot of times that's actually your emotional brain at work, and your emotional brain is oftentimes a hindrance to your success.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Operators Pod Live from sunny San Diego, California. My name is Jimmy Kim, and I'm the founder of Sendlane. We are here at Commerce Roundtable, and I'm pleased to moderate this live podcast today. All right, so I want to start off by introducing everyone, and I've got a little intro for everyone. So first and foremost, I've got Jason Panzer, the man who makes spreadsheets sound exciting, turning conversion rates to riveting stories. He tells people on a weekly hot takes called Panzerisms. He's the president of HexClad, $1 billion cookware brand. Jason, welcome.
Thanks, Jimmy. Great to be here. Awesome event. Thank you, Sendlane, for putting this event on, and thank you for supporting our podcast. Your support has been incredibly valuable for us, and really happy to be here.
All right, and then I got Matthew Bertelli, the man who lives and breathes sustainability with composable phone cases with Pela or home recycling with Lomi. He's a category designer and lives at the intersection of waste innovation and consumer technology. He's the CEO and founder of both Pela and Lomi. Welcome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
As I drink out of my plastic water bottle.
And last but not least, a late addition here, we got Aaron Orendorff, the man who puts the marketing in B2B, known for hot takes and leads as an executive wrangler at the Operators newsletter, and he's also the VP of Growth at Fermat.
Oh, delighted to be here as the poor man Sean Frank. I will be signing headshots after this, just not my own.
Sean would like to remind everyone to not eat crab cakes.
There you go.
We'll leave it at that.
Unfortunately, Sean couldn't join us from crab cakes, and
He actually got food poisoning last night. Sean is supposed to be here to yell at everybody. Decided not to come.
So, guys, welcome to San Diego, and thanks for letting me moderate this pod, guys. I want to set the stage here. I think regardless of whatever business, any size, there's a lot of things that are happening right now in the economy, a lot of things that are happening in the market, and I think you guys have a wealth of knowledge that you can discuss. And the first thing I want to talk about, and it's a really broad topic, but I want to talk about the state of consumer. Jason, I'm going to start with you because I think you've got a panzerism ultimately of what you're thinking about what's going on. So what do you think about the state of the economy right now with consumer?
The consumer is definitely different than it was in 23 and 22, and we're seeing that in our business. And I thought it was worth talking about that with everyone here because, so many of us are really we're just in it every day. And our business has been a rocket ship for years since I joined in 2020. And this is the first year that I'm asking different questions and not just like windmill dunking, right? Like I remember Sean saying HexClad's windmill dunking on everyone in the industry, and that was really fun for 2 years. And now, as you grow, obviously the law of large numbers kicks in and things get harder, and our business is still crushing, but it's just different. And I'm seeing the consumer behavior is different, and Matt will speak to this because we're in a bunch of chats, and I think there are a lot of brands out there that are they're just struggling a little bit more than usual due to the climate and how consumer is spending. And one of the things that I am hopeful, and this is a phenomenon that I've seen, is that the consumer is sort of waiting for deals more than before. And so I am hopeful that the consumer is going to show up big in Q4. And we've seen that too. In terms of our evergreen versus sale periods, we did some really interesting things. The biggest deal that we ever run, we used to run it 4, 5, 6 times a year. And last year we only ran it once. And we only ran it for BFCM. And we basically were like, we don't need to run this great deal too often. We don't want to discount too often. There's always that tension. And so we didn't do it. And we haven't done it this year. And I was saying to myself like a month ago, 2024 is not like 23 or 22. It might be more like 2021, and maybe we should have. Maybe we should have done this deal that we know always crushes for us. But I thought of it too late, so like nothing to do, right? We're already gonna be there. And so that's my message. I'm hopeful that the consumer is gonna show up big in Q4. It doesn't mean you need to make all kinds of changes to the way you do things, but that's just philosophically the way I'm looking at the market. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, I was showing Jason this. We're in a bunch of chat groups, right? You guys know that the podcast started in a chat group. That's like the whole story for this. Well, just yesterday, as I'm flying here, I'm in one group with Sean. Jason's not in this one. He's too big now. But this is like mostly mid 8-figure brands, and everybody was kind of doing a roll call, like, how's your September going? And not a single person was down. They were all down more than 12% year over year in September, which I found surprising. Look, there's lots of aggregated data out there. I tend to ignore most of it, even though I know it's like bigger data sets. I just look at my friend group and my network, and I'm like, these are really, really fucking smart operators. They know what they're doing, and some of them are getting punished. And it seems to be in that like mid 8-figure range. So it depends on kind of size, right? Like a lot of the people we know that are in that high 7 moving into the 8s seem to be doing okay. Mid 8 right now is largely been a bloodbath, at least in September, and then like a good chunk of Q1, Q2.
Our September has been below expectations.
Yeah.
And we have a very fast-growing international business on a percentage basis because it's just way smaller because we started late. And it's really helping our overall top-line growth rate, which is strong. But without international growth, I think we'd be in a different place. So,
I mean, even I think we talked about this a few pods ago, but like Sean was mentioning with Ridge, that if you just took wallets, right, that's been a harder thing for them to grow because that's the more mature business for him. And then if you look at like luggage and rings, he's crushing it. Pela case this year, January, February, we were up. March, April, May, June, I felt like I couldn't do a single thing right. Like, I just getting my ass kicked. We were like, the whole team, we're just like, what the fuck is going on? And then like mid-June, July, August, September has ripped. So it's just been this weird seesaw of a year, and
Do you guys think that it has something to do with the state of consumer changing too a little bit? Like one of the things I've noticed is, and I say this often, is like, you've got to start being where the consumer is, less about like the single channel. I know Sean loves single channel, like going single channel focused and hyper focusing, but do you think it's because you need to diversify a little bit more this year? I mean, do you think that's a challenge?
No, I think I think acquiring new customers is harder this year. I do believe, like, look, we're in a lot of our groups, like these are bigger companies. There's a lot of repeat purchase that you can rely on.
Yeah.
Like Pela Case got 2 million customers.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
No, yeah, makes sense.
But acquiring new ones, regardless of channel, and like we spend heavy on Meta, Google, YouTube, like we're all over the place.
This is really true. Customer acquisition is just getting harder. We had 22 and 23. Our numbers were like upside down in terms of we were growing more and getting more efficient. And everyone says you can't do that. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that there's a brand flywheel that kicks in when your brand reaches a certain level. And, like in your post-purchase survey, you should, how much is word of mouth? Word of mouth is the brand flywheel at work. And we had a lot of that in 23. And so I do think you can defy the conventional wisdom that the more you grow, the more you spend, the less efficient you have to get. But it definitely is true for most brands until you reach scale. But I agree with Matt, customer acquisition, the numbers are just not as good this year. And so what does that mean? Retention, being really solid on retention, being more nimble. And then the next topic that I want to go over here is some things that we think people are doing wrong. Should we shift to that?
Yeah, hold on. Aaron's got a hot take. He's been making
so
faces.
you said, this is really interesting to me, that you've got a major deal, is the phrase that you use, that you ran 5 times in the previous year, and this year you're running it once over Black Friday.
Well, we only ran it once in 23, but in 22 and 21 and 20, we rolled that out 4, 5, 6 times a year.
Because one of the pieces, and I think a word like deal is such a, because yes, there's price sensitivity. There's still essentially more of the same when it comes to consumer confidence, your expectations going into the holiday season and what they're going to spend. But the inside of deal is, there's really 3 ideas of there are discounts, there are offers, and there are excuses. And I love to think about framing whatever the event is around those 3. So like what you're describing, right, is a discount. We're gonna sell you the thing you'd normally pay at this price for a lower price, so come get it now. We're gonna clear the funnel out, right? That's the deal. An offer is built all around what is the value exchange between what I'm giving you versus what I'm getting. So for example, like Jones Road is a phenomenal example of a brand that despite everybody else in the industry who said we will never discount and then discounted, still does not discount. So their entire Q4 strategy is built around product drops. So they're pushing everything up sooner, right? They've got the anniversary that they typically do. They release a special kit. I think it's like the Bobby Kit 4.0 this year, something like that. And all that comes down to is giving people a higher perception of value for something they can't get otherwise without introducing any sort of discount. And excuse, though, is my favorite category, especially with price sensitivity and anxiety being at a really high level with, the political climate that we're in. People are hedging their bets. Excuse is simply a reason that begins with why should I interact with your brand right now in a way that's different from the usual SOP operations. So like what Ridge did with the big giveaway, right? That's an example of it writ large. That's super hard to pull off. And I think it was on this pod where he's like, don't do it. And his basic reason for don't do it was, don't do it because it's really freaking hard logistically to do it. And then you, like the very next week, roll out this giant contest as well related to Gordon Ramsay, which is another one of those really hard to do sort of things. But these are like writ large examples of this is an excuse that may lead to a purchase, but it's definitely filling that sponge so that when that offer or the deal, the true discount comes through, you've got more addressable market ready to buy from you, the demand you've created to realize very soon. And those excuse moments are the ones that I think we're rarely as creative or think as intentionally about versus the first 2. And that's sort of like I've just seen over and over again, distinguish creating those excuses to interact with the brand, whether it's attached to a specific cultural moment, non-traditional holiday, something you make up for your brand, as long as it feels like a real because, people will jump in.
Yeah, event
that's
marketing,
super insightful.
Right?
Yeah, like that's super insightful. It's not always about to me, it's about the offer.
Yep.
Right? And the offer comprises all these things that we're talking about in my mind. It's like what the excuses, to me, it's almost like another offer, but it is really about the offer. And it is like, sure, it's just not all about when are we going on sale. In our case, it was just like, we know what works. If you have patterns are there for a reason, and take advantage of patterns.
So I think just back up for a second. So when you talk about 23, 22 for Hex, right? The thing that blew us away the last couple of years, like in our chat on the pod, was that very rarely do you see a brand be able to push scale and CAC drop. Like everybody here, if you spend money on ads, like that's not super normal, especially when you're pushing scale into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Like this is not I'm going from $1 million to 2. Like it's big scale. CAC typically does not go down when you start to hit the throttle. And what you're saying is that in 24, it's harder to do that now.
Correct.
That sucks.
I don't like it.
For the rest of us.
Yeah.
That's my excuse.
And like I said, I'm resting on the fact that it seems to me, because we've seen it already throughout the year, that people are just sort of waiting for deals or excuses to purchase, and maybe we need to be better at it, and that's why I'm at places like this, to meet people like you, to learn more.
Do you think we're back in, I'd be curious to hear both your thoughts on this, and even from your perspective, are we just back to where consumer was pre-pandemic? So like, every industry is kind of like just seesawed back to normal. Travel rebounded, concerts kind of went ballistic, and now they're coming down back to their normal state. Like retail's kind of come back to its normal. But if you were to like draw a line on overall, e-commerce, DTC, like retail growth, are we just now in an environment where it was like this in 2019, where you had to try? Like as a marketer, as a brand, you really had to try to punch through. You couldn't just go on and like pour money in the machine and get money out super easily. Are we just back to normal? Are we just spoiled brats?
I mean, so the tough thing about back to normal is from a consumer's willingness to spend money and where they're going to put their dollars. Share of wallet, year over year, e-commerce, D2C growth. Yes, all that's back to, there's essentially the same trajectory if you wipe out 2020, 2021, right? It's just the same exact growth pattern that had this huge spike, and now it's back to where it was. The shitty thing is, that's then compounded by everybody who flooded into the market on e-commerce during that period.
Yep.
And a degradation overall in marketing efficiency. Like, it's never gonna get cheaper to acquire customers than it is right now. And I don't mean that because it's, what are we, like September, I don't mean that in like in a seasonal sort of way. I mean, it's just going to get, it's never going to be less expensive to advertise right. It's only going to get more expensive. So you've got this like wicked 1-2 combination of, yes, it's the same, and it's incredibly harder because it's the same, given everything else that's changed outside of the consumers themselves.
But there's also macroeconomic factors, Matt, which I think actually it's worse. And I don't mean to be negative. I hate being negative. I'm actually really a positive person, but we're in a different macroeconomic environment than we have been. There's a pretty positive macroeconomic environment since the global financial crisis, which most of the people in here probably weren't working at the time, but I was. I didn't get a paycheck for 14 months as an investment banker because like deals weren't happening, and that's when interest rates went to basically an all-time low and stayed there for a historic amount of time. And you're seeing it in the deal market too. I'm an M&A guy originally, and private equity is a lot of dry powder because leverage is tough to do. They're very, very selective about where they want to invest their money, and it's because of the macroeconomics and the rate environment. We got a 50 basis point cut, which hopefully helps. I will say that if you look at history, 50 basis point cuts came before some further macroeconomic damage, but then again, history doesn't always repeat itself. So then we may be in a position now where that's actually a good thing, and we just needed a little sort of juice to going into Q4. But I think the consumers sort of started to feel it last September, Matt.
Yep.
And then fortunately we had Q4 to kind of bail us out. And then January, February were okay. And we sort of seen now, I think we've been in like the trough since March. And I think we come out of the trough when people start to launch BFCM.
American savings they went below negative in April of this year. It's like broad-based, like American bank accounts went negative in April.
Yeah.
It's like all the COVID savings ran out in April.
And a perspective that I see that's really interesting this year is, a lot of the TikTok and Timu's and all the things rose, and one thing we saw was consumers went to go spend money there, right? They don't care about brand, they just care about what it does or what it
Dude, that was a discount craze. That was no different than the 2008, 2009. It was like the Groupons and all the behind, what are those? The deal sites that launched. There was a bunch of them. I can't remember the names, but basically those companies popped up to binge on an oversupply of inventory post 2008, 2009, right? There was Guild Group was the big one, right?
Is that part of the playbook though?
They all just showed up and just sucked up like dead stock.
Yep.
Discounted it by 80%, built billion-dollar businesses that were then worth zero 2 years later. I think TikTok Shops is absolute bullshit right now. Because show me a fucking brand who's doing it without discounting 70%.
Yeah.
Show me one. Yeah, man. Like really, like every example I get, like, oh yeah, look, I'm winning. I'm like, no, homie, you're capturing something.
Okay,
It's
so
like
you're
70%
giving me
discount.
another. So you're giving me another lead-in to the next topic. that I
Correct.
wanted
What
to
are
get
brands
to.
doing wrong?
That's a segue.
Yeah, I mean, this is really like, what are people doing wrong? And I'm going to start with something like really general, because I like to keep things at a high level. I like to talk about things that I believe apply to everyone. And it is happening at our shop too. People are very good at pointing out the what. They're like, numbers are down, or efficiency is down, or sales are down, what. But they're really not thoughtful enough about the why. I mean, you gotta constantly ask why. Just like, TikTok shops. TikTok shops is great. Oh, let's go do it. Let's jump on this fad. Let's jump on that fad. Stop and ask yourself why. What's going on? That's why we're talking about the consumer here. I am trying to figure out live with all you guys, what's going on. And I'm like, okay, well, consumer is probably 50+% of the pain. And then what else is it? We got to look at what did we change? You got to look at what have you done differently? And unfortunately, like, the model is complex, because it's not like it's a holdout test where you're just like holding one thing out and you can say, there's been like 7 different things that we've done this year, all of which probably have some effect. It's like doing a media mix model. All these things, all models are wrong, but you got to at least ask yourself why, collect the data, and then try to apply good judgment to making these decisions. And I'm constantly reminding our team that, like, my opinion is that HexClad has built the best e-commerce team on the planet. I really do. But I'm still having to remind these guys and girls that you're not asking why enough. You need to step back, take some time, go take a shower, think, and
He's obsessed with hygiene.
ask yourself why.
Yep.
And so it's really easy to jump on the Twitter bandwagon or the hype squad or whatever else. Ask yourself why and be thoughtful about it, and then ask a bunch of people why, and then try to use the best business judgment you can to help make good decisions.
No, I love that. Matt, what do you think? What do you see brands doing wrong these days besides TikTok Shop?
I don't hate on it. It's going to be a great channel. Every case study I've seen so far is mostly discount driven. I would say for us, I like the why. You ask why now a lot, which I really like. Why should I do that right now? I think for us, this year has been very much a focus on supply chain. So when we see that things are difficult on the demand side, I love marketing. It's great. It's the most fun part of the business, but it's not the only part of the business. And we went nuts on every non-marketing part of our company this year in both brands, right? In Pela and Lomi, and just went hard after contribution dollars. And the impact of it has been insane. Like Pela is negative cash conversion cycle now, fully negative. We can lose money in a month and somehow the bank balance grows. Blows my mind. So I think supply chain probably is the place.
Yep.
I find most companies that I look at, they've done so much work on customer acquisition, and then immediately most people are like, you should go work on retention. I'm like, no, you should go fix the back of house, for sure. You're probably bleeding out more cash in supply chain, product dev, everything than you will ever recover on the front end.
No, that's really good insight on thinking differently than the typical way that you might go after this, right?
Yep.
Aaron, I know you're on the other side of this thing, and I'd love to hear your take on this. What are brands doing wrong these days?
I mean, I love the way that, Jason, you talked about asking the why, not examining only the what, but the why, and answering that question of if it's a new channel, if it's a new product, if it's a new product feature, why are we doing this? And it's the two biggest answers at the end of the day usually are peer pressure, because I'm seeing everybody else do it and talk about it, and I'm seeing some outlier successes of the people that actually made it work. So that's coloring my survivorship bias, whatever it is that I'm seeing out there. Or the second reason is people who have leaders who are very creative, one of the best things you can do for your people is keep your ideas to yourself. And what I mean by that is, as a leader, especially executive, when you jump into a Slack channel because you had an idea, and for you, it's a throwaway concept of what should we be doing with AI and outbound? Not that this has come up at Fermat, right? This is like, it's not, it absolutely, that message comes in, and what you've just done is at least committed the switching cost of now I have to think about this, the 15 to 30 minutes or even longer if I do think about this, and maybe researching the link that you just dropped into the channel as well. And one of the things I did very early on with our CEO is I just went to him directly and I'm like, when you drop one of these messages, what is your expectation? He's like, I need an expectation bar whenever you share an idea. And just from one of the people that's in the trenches, like, no, what we need to do is make our homepage fuck. Like, that is what has to happen. And we've got a lot of nuts and bolts that we got to iron out with the life cycle process, and we got to hammer our email list a lot more and a lot more personalization. What we don't need to do is figure out a new avenue into outbound that is driven by AI because you listened to a podcast and saw a new tool. But the weight that you bring as a leader into those rooms, into those conversations, like, do your people a favor and just create a notes, a Google Doc, whatever you want. Force yourself to put it in there first, sit on it, and then decide, is this worth bringing up? Because it is going to get their attention. It's actually so good. It's going to pull them away from something.
That's so good.
That was great.
That's so good. Dude, do you listen? So we were talking, I don't actually know if you were on that pod. We were, so like I have this document just called Alyssa. Did you hear this? So I have Alyssa's my EA, and I just dump shit into this Notion doc. Like I'll screenshot crap. And Jason sends me a text, and like I'll screenshot it and I'll just throw it in this Notion doc. And her job is once a week we sit down and we go through this Notion doc just to figure out of all the dumping ground that I've put in the doc, like all this like vomit, what is useful and what needs to be brought to the team now. Because I used to just Slack bomb people. I so do it. It's such a great call out. I used to do it. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And actually it applies across so many different areas of your business and your life.
That's also a really like Sean thing to say.
Living up to
Seriously.
expectations.
Like the thing that Sean would tell everybody right now, like if he was gonna sit here and yell at you, he yells at us. He would tell you not to listen to us. Like don't listen to anybody. That is he's honest all the time. Like you should not listen to anybody, or whatever somebody says is working for them, you should not just run and do that. It probably won't work for you. He's screaming at us all the time.
But this goes back to something that I was thinking about. Is like, don't be in such a hurry, like to put that out there, to put that Slack out there, to put that tweet out there. It's like, don't, because a lot of times that's actually your emotional brain at work. And your emotional brain is oftentimes a hindrance to your success in business. And so I feel like it's really important to just definitely take a step back, breathe a little bit. I love how you dump it in a doc, go through it and be like, because I was in a meeting a few months back, and I think there was like a lot of negative social media chatter about something. And I said to some of our people, like at this team meeting, hey, don't be afraid to jump in there and like defend that. And actually that was wrong. That was wrong. It was like, we should have just we should just like let it go. It's gonna die down. It's always something, right? The bigger you are, there's something coming at you, someone coming at you. And I reacted emotionally for some reason because it was an emotional thing. And so taking that extra time, because you will send people off like on a mission.
It's gonna cost. That costs is
There's
what it
a lot
does.
of cost.
Talk about costs and like, what's the value of, or how do we eliminate waste? Yeah, especially you think about like the crew that you just talked about assembling, right? When you get the right people in the room, the last thing you want to do is, what is the, like maybe this is the Sean thing. The Sean thing is like, don't listen to us and go keep getting better at meta. That's like that's what you, no, that is, there's so much more value in the thing that's driving the most value that you haven't realized yet before you cross into any other new territory.
You know, just on this patience thing, so every year one of my co-founders, well, all three co-founders, we get together and we do like an annual postmortem, and it's like a little therapy session. We sit down, we pour some tequila, and it's like, how did the year go? How are we showing up for each other? I feel like these are important relationships, right? It's like your wife. You're gonna spend as much time with your business partner as you are with your wife or husband. You should probably treat it that way. So we were in this thing, and I was going through, I had like taken a bunch of notes out of our Big Dogs chat, and I was just going through some thoughts I had, and my partner Brad asked, he's like, well, what is if you picked one thing in common of all these companies? Like, so we have a chat where like the group of people in this chat do, like the aggregate total GMV is like in the billions, right? So these are
There's
really
11
big
of
brands.
us.
There's 11 people, and it's like in the many billions. And the thing I came up with, like the only word I could come up with was patience. Like almost, you're the youngest company, the fastest growing and the youngest company, but everybody else in this chat has been building a long time.
Yep.
And if you look at social media, particularly TikTok, the narrative has nothing to do with that. It is like fastest path to outcome. And I'm not saying don't go fast and none of that shit. No. That's absolutely hustle, work your ass off. But I will say, like, dude, the thing that I've noticed the most is that everybody just has this like, slow down. We're in this for a long time. You want to build a big company, you're going to need to go a long way.
Going long. All right, so as we wrap this thing up, I wanted to ask you guys an opportunity that you should be thinking about. Like, if you guys could give advice, general advice, what's the thing that you should be thinking about that you're seeing into the future as we look into 2025?
Ooh.
Big picture.
I'll go while you think, because usually these guys put me on the spot on the pod, and I'm usually not ready. This is one where I'm actually ready. So I think that your data, it's amazing that a lot of the sponsors of the Operators Pod have something to do with data. And this is one thing that I wish we would have done sooner, is to have a better hold on all the data in our company. And we sort of started a data analytics project earlier this year. And we're so big now, it's a lot harder to get it done. And we're working with this great business called Saris Analytics, and they're really, really good. And they work with smaller brands too, and they work with big brands, small brands. They've got like more sort of off-the-shelf stuff for smaller brands, and then more like bespoke, like data science, right? People have been talking about data science for a while. I think you can take data science seriously from day one. I would say take data science seriously from day one. People at our business, we're always talking about like understanding our customer. How do we understand our customer better? There's lots of tools out there. I only mentioned one of them, but we've had millions of purchases, and there are trends in that data, right? We have multiple sales channels that we need to aggregate and get a view of. You need to pay. If you pay attention to that early, it's sort of like the people who don't do their financial statements right from the beginning. This is something that I used to go on and on about on the pod early on. It's like, have good numbers, know your numbers, be ready, because one day someone might ask you for your financials, and time kills all deals. And if you're like a month late, you just can't do it, or you just totally lose credibility. I think that there is a cheat code out there for really understanding the data in your company, and that's why like stuff like MTA and MMM, Northbeam and things like that. That stuff's all really important, but there's so much more data inside your company, and it's one of those things where you do not know what you're missing until you go and like sniff around. So in my view, and Matt has a big data science background, and they do a lot of data science there. We've been a little bit late to the game on that, and fortunately, it's one of those things where it's the why, like why do it now? That's what I always say, like, well, when you're kicking ass, it's like, whatever, it's fine, we don't need to. Look what we're doing. And now I'm like, wow, we could keep the trajectory if we focused on this stuff. So I think understanding your data, having a great data warehouse, having dashboards, analytics, things like that, doesn't matter how small or big you are. This will make you money. Think about that. Like, Sean is always, ripping on SaaS businesses. I was a tech banker. I used to sell SaaS businesses for a living. There's a reason why SaaS businesses tend to be way bigger than retail businesses on average, because they do really add value. The right ones, Sendlane, like they really do add value. But sometimes you have to take a little bit of a like a lot of the things we do in business is like using our gut and making decisions based on that. And I had this gut feeling that our internal data, understanding our customer, understanding what SKUs are selling and not. You can flip open Shopify. You can have stuff in spreadsheets. We've got spreadsheets all over the place. And I'm like, I have to ask 10 different people to get a piece of data as the president. I don't want to go log into 10 different platforms. I want the data. Like, give me the numbers. And so set that up as early as you can and realize that actually will make you money. You're not spending money. You're investing to make money, just like you're investing in product development. Invest in the infrastructure of your organization, and understanding your data and having analytics on your data is a big part of that.
Yeah, financial literacy. I mean, that's basically what you're saying. You got to start stepping up and learning your data. Matt, what do you got here?
So, we're doing like forward-looking.
Yeah,
right?
forward-looking. What's the opportunity right now? You're thinking about?
So at the beginning of the year, this year, the call I made on the pod was that by the end of 24, we're going to see AI like really insert itself into the creation of ads. I think we're getting close. Like everybody's sort of seeing that now.
Yeah.
Like it's happening. So I think that's like great. And then I think what I want to talk about is I think 22 and 23, like 2022, 2023, the message, because the market shifted, was largely about companies going to the gym and getting fit. Small teams, more efficient, go after profitability, yada, yada, yada. I think that's likely gonna, like everything, it's gonna go too far. And I think that if I'm looking at 2025, with everything that's happening and particularly the AI thing right now, I think what you're gonna see is we're gonna have to return back somewhat to how do we lead through people? How do we build, if it's gonna be a small team, how does it be an incredible small team?
Yeah.
I think companies are gonna start to realize that like you're overpaying most of your people, and you're underpaying a very select few people that are like high leverage folks.
That was fire.
I think that like,
and it's not because I want to
be
raise
2025.
Oh, yeah.
I think 2025 is going to be okay, now I have a small team.
Yep.
How do you lead? How do you like actually scale up through people again?
Well,
even in a world of AI, like people
Yeah.
aren't going anywhere.
In the software side, I think what's interesting is people are spinning up $3-5 million businesses with 1-2 people right now with the leverage of AI these days. And I think like it's just opening up a new path, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Aaron, I'm gonna give it to you here. What do you see?
You said big. I'm going to actually get really small, granular, tactical, micro. And I want to say like the most unrealized opportunity is there's probably 2, 3, maybe 2 handfuls of folks in here that are messaging, emailing, texting your current subscribers and or customers enough. The vast majority of us are not emailing enough. So email more. Email more. 2 is send more clicked but didn't purchase texts. Okay? Now you can do this inside of virtually any platform, right? And I've heard I've been like an evangelist for this, and not enough freaking people pay attention. Because yes, you should go send more emails. The cost of that is incredibly low compared to the payoff. The churn is not going to be as bad as you think it is, because most people don't pay attention to what you're doing anyway. They just need that excuse, that reason to come up, and it needs to come up more often for them to act. Click but didn't purchase means 24, 48 hours after sending a large campaign, segment that based on the people who clicked but didn't purchase in that 24 to 48 hours. And before you send another new text that is going to cost you money, send the same freaking text, or even just one SMS of, you showed interest in this, the thing is ending, this is the last chance. Whatever it's just like a reminder. And oh, good gravy, pay attention to your emojis in your text messages. Some of you are burning, dude, you're burning thousands of dollars depending on the size of your list by using emoji, and it doesn't effing matter. Like, okay, so send less emoji and more. Okay. This is the last one I want to end on and so I am also practicing what I preach with this. Okay, so we do these like events where we try to like build up the email list at Fermat, like build it up, and then like I kid you not, the running joke right now with my lifecycle manager, she does the emails, that sort of thing, is like, all right, now the goal is we're going to grind this list into the ground until they either unsubscribe or book a freaking demo. That's it. If they're qualified, that's the only reason they're on this list, is to buy from us at some point. This list exists for no other purpose than that. So yeah, send more emails and stop using emoji in your text.
Aaron, thank you for reading all my tweets for the last like 6 months, just talking about sending more email, man. Like that's exactly right. It's not just about just a simple idea of sending email. It's about getting better at it and utilizing the channel that's obviously printing money still.
And no one remembers anything you ever said on the internet. Unless you're like an outlier who gets canceled for something bad and you're a celebrity, and none of us are that, right? So like if you're, oh, can I say the same thing? Yes! You can use the same subject line, the same seats, like you don't have to overthink it. No one is paying more attention to your marketing than you.
You're
right?
hired.
So just like,
He's on fire here today. I love it.
It seems like Aaron needs to be a regular guest on the pod.
Yes, it sounds like Aaron's just earned a spot there. All right, we are at the top of the hour, so I'm gonna wrap this thing up, guys. Jason, Matt, Aaron, I wanna thank you guys for joining us here in San Diego. It's been an honor to be your moderator here today and joining us for the second time here on stage at Commerce Round. Thank you guys very much. Guys, if you haven't heard the Operators Pod, I highly recommend it. Go jump on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever, YouTube, and go watch these guys. They are talking about this stuff each and every day. Thank you, gentlemen.
9operators.com, 9operators.com.
And
Go
get
sign
the
up for the
newsletter.
email. We will send you a ton.
Yes. Aaron's got the newsletter. Thank you, guys.